Just days after the announced ceasefire, Iran says it has once again closed the Strait of Hormuz. They say it's in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. But the White House is saying that the strait is in fact open for business. The vice president now on his way to Switzerland for those peace talks that were supposed to take place yesterday. Fox's Alex Hogan has more from Tel Aviv.
Following President Trump's signing of the Memorandum of Understanding in the Palace of Versailles, the Iran peace deal remains shaky with reported attacks between Israel and Hezbollah. Israel says Hezbollah struck IDF soldiers overnight, and Israeli attacks on Lebanon since Wednesday have killed dozens. Iranian officials say this is a complete breach of the deal.
Clause 1 of the memorandum is the most important part of the reciprocal commitments. It requires an end to the war on all fronts. We have seen that they have failed to fulfill their obligations, and this constitutes a clear violation of the ceasefire memorandum.
Iran says it closed the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday because of Israel's attacks, although a senior U.S. defense official tells Fox the IRGC can't close the waterway since they don't control it. Vice President J.D. Vance pointed to progress in the Strait of Hormuz since the memorandum was signed.
We got 16 million barrels out of the Strait of Hormuz in just the last 24 hours. That is basically to where it was before the war even started.
Despite the back and forth, Friday's scheduled talks in Switzerland have been postponed to Sunday. Vance says U.S. negotiators Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are already there.
Despite the headlines, things are actually getting better there. Things have calmed down a little bit. It's going to be something we're just going to have to continuously manage.
Iran confirmed it will send representatives to the talks. Mediators from Qatar and Pakistan are also expected to attend. In Tel Aviv, Israel, Alex Hogan, Fox News.